Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the farm. We're getting our ducks in a row to go pick some more corn this morning. If I can get the combine to start. There we go. Even though it only rained for a short amount of time and we got virtually no considerable amount of moisture, it was still enough to make it messy and get some mud on the tires. The semis are blocking my way out, so we'll do something you really want to avoid, and that is backing up with the combine. Really, you don't want to back up with anything at all. My camera being this dirty does not help. There's only about 30 acres or so that remains in the field that we were working on yesterday. I think that we've picked the best of the field so far. That south end is a little bit lighter, drier soil. The north end is darker, poorly drained soil, which is probably going to pull our yield down. Sitting in the seat roading this combine with the head on, it has me thinking, why hasn't Deere engineered a float system for their feeder houses? Our case backhoe has a system that allows the bucket to have some play in it as it goes down the road to kind of absorb some of the weight from the head or the front of the vehicle shaking up and down. Surely it wouldn't be too hard to put that on a combine, other than the fact that a head weighs quite a bit. We're not gonna pick, we're just getting ready. Open up the grain tank cover. The combine is showing 277 dry, 286 wet, 17.7% moisture. The grain cart scales are showing 271 wet. If you trust the moisture monitor at 17.7%, that'll shrink down to about 261, 262-ish. Even if this is off 15 bushels, this is darn good corn we're picking. Unfortunately though, we're not picking just yet. Just making some preparations. What is this? Gold Key customer. Did they send us the entire John Deere factory in this box so we could watch our combine be built that's already been built, that we couldn't watch be built because of COVID in China? Gold Key customer, keychain things. A half a metric ton of green stringy stuff. And last but not least, John Deere Gold Key. Rumor has it that the Gold Key actually works to start the combine. Never tried. We have a couple other Gold Keys for those 96 70s that we got about 10 years ago. We actually got to watch them be built. I would love to see what's changed at Harvester Works in the last decade, see our 780 roll off the line, but unfortunately there's circumstances in the world that didn't allow that. Nothing against Deere. The boss fired up the 780, he's running some corn right now, and the dust is flying, so that's a pretty good sign. I wanted to check out our beans though and see if there's any possibility that we could cut them today. There's no moisture dripping off of them. Pods are still extremely tough, although it's first thing in the morning. I'm squeezing these beans flat in my hand. That is not a good sign in terms of moisture. We will go ahead and break out the big guns though, our high-tech moisture sensor. Oh, those are probably 20%. No way they're going today, even with the sun shining and the wind blowing. Check the blood, plenty of it. You guys want to see a magic trick? Watch this. Where'd those come from? We're rolling. Hold the line. Someone stealing our combine? No, Dad just got out of the seat with the separator still engaged. Man, do I love that feature. Corn's still running over 250 for the most part. That is the dry instant. Not bad. I'm sure on mine and a lot of the other farming channels, you probably hear the terms wet yield and dry yield mentioned quite a bit. Wet yield is essentially your gross bushels or total weight out in the field at a given moisture. Moisture matters because at the elevator or any point of sale, it has to be standardized down to a specific dry weight. For the most part, this moisture is 15%. Some do 14, some do 15.5. It really depends on the facility, but I would say 15% is a good bet. This corn right here, the last load at the elevator was running 17%. Essentially, this crop has 2% more moisture than what it needs to have, so it has extra weight. That is where wet weight comes in. What we have to do is factor in the shrink. To calculate shrink, all you have to do is make use of a very easy formula, and that is 1.1% per point of moisture. So if we have 17% corn, we have 2.2% of shrink. Since this field is running about 271 wet right now, even though the ears do not look like 270 bushel corn, we take 97.8% of that and get our dry weight, which is in the low 260s. That's why you do that. The end users do not want that extra moisture. Most of them are here for the starch inside of the kernels. That water is added weight that they don't want to pay for. Another row of shame. Is that what I think it is? The lunch lady? Everyone comes running when there's food involved.
There's not enough corn to fill the bin.
Oh, what can we squeeze in at 20,000?
I got 22 in it before, but I don't know.
Well, it's wet corn, so it's gonna take up more space. These Milwaukee battery-powered blowers are actually pretty sweet. I thought that was gonna be a waste of money, overpriced and underpowered, but it's been the complete opposite. It's a powerful little thing. It's competitive with a little gas blower. The ultimate question, how do you set the climate control in your cab? Do you go the temperature you want, like 70 degrees, and speed this up? Or do you go as cold as possible and slow the fan down so it's not as obnoxious? The second one's my preference. If you can't tell by my physique, I do enjoy lunchtime a little bit too much. Last through! Ah, look who it is. Nutrients rolling up to spread some dry fertilizer for us. They stay pretty close behind the combines on the soybean stubble, which is where we put most of our dry fertilizer. I would imagine he's going right south of the farm there, and we're moving over to this 200-acre field that we call the well, because it's where our well is. When it's the last load of the field, you make it fit. Doing the math right now, over the scales of the cart, we had 1.26 million pounds of corn. We take that divided by 56. That's how many pounds are in a bushel. Now Dad's interrupting me. Hello.
Lay that and dump it on Chris. Make a ticket from Virginia Campbell.
I'm empty.
Well, that's even better.
That was an 86-acre field. Our wet bushels came out at 262. Then we'll account for our shrink. The combine monitor said it averaged 17.5. The elevator loads that we took seemed to come out a little bit lower. Take that times our shrink factor, and our final yield is 255 over 86 acres. Not bad. Basically what went on out here, the south 2/3 of the farm probably averaged 280 dry. Then we got into the north third of the farm that was a lower lying black soil, had a lot of water and is poorly drained. It was probably in that 220 range. So all things considered, that farm making 255 dry is pretty impressive. The really impressive part about that is that one farm filled one of our 36-foot bins. Dad and Jeff are moving the auger. I get the privilege of picking the ends off with the 780. Gotta back up a little bit or this unloading auger will clip the tractor when it comes out. By the way, that corn that we just picked that went 255 dry average across the field, that was Pioneer 1298, double stack 112-day Pioneer corn. My butt's on fire, Ricky Bobby. No, Dad's got the heated seat on. That's exactly what I don't need. We got enough warmth down there. All right, we're empty. Let's go pick. A lot of the tops in this area of the corn are broke off or gone out, as some people like to say, which is a pretty sure sign of some disease pressure out here in the field. You can see it scattered around on this in-row specifically. I also think this is a different hybrid because you can see a height difference between the actual long rows. It'd be interesting to see if there's a yield difference between this in-row and out in the field. Picking the south end row of this well farm gives me quite a bit of anxiety, solely for the fact that I know there's an 18-inch plus tile main that runs under here, and I've seen the tile holes that it creates, and you don't want to hit them, especially not with your tongue out. So I'm trying to keep my eyes open. I'm also trying to pay attention to the corn, making sure I pick up all of these plants that are leaned over. It doesn't seem to be a big issue. It's not wind, not rootworm damage, just disease took the tops out. Got to get the ends picked off the right direction because it's hard to go across the road. You always want to go with them. No surprises here. Same story we're going to see all year. The very productive dark ground is not going to really be that productive at the end of the day. Too much water. Where's that pesky grain cart driver when you need him? Gotta do everything myself here in the combine. The top being out hasn't really affected the yield in those areas. Sometimes plants can put so much energy into producing an ear that they sacrifice all of their defenses and structures in other areas. That doesn't happen all the time though. Sometimes if the top's out, the yield's not gonna be as good. Other times the top's out, it may be the best spot in the field. There's really no rhyme or reason, and it is hybrid dependent. We're gonna try something a little different here. I sped up the back shaft on the corn head all the way, so it's gonna be running even faster now. I'm gonna try moving the rotor up and moving the fan up as well, and we're gonna put the throttle down, pick as much as we can without causing excessive loss or running out of power, and then we're gonna get out in the back and see how good this 780 is separating at those speeds. When I got in, Dad had the rotor at 330. We're it right up to 390. He had the fan at 1280. I ran it up to 1340. You want to be careful on this because if the test weight's not that high on the corn, you can actually blow out the kernels. Not likely to happen, but it is possible. We're in the worst part of the field now. We're going to get farther out there where we're seeing 300s on the yield monitor, and I'm going to let her eat. And we're in what is supposedly 280, 270 bushel corn, around 4,700. We're getting close to 100% power usage on the meter there. We're going to give her a little more stick on 7.7. Our throughput should bump up a little bit depending on the yields. 4,600. Grain tank's full, 4,500, 4,800, 4,900. Give it a little more. Let's get 5,000 there. There's a 51, 5,000, 48, 48.85. Okay, we are stopping with a full grain tank right where we stopped last time, and we're gonna go dump and then check this out. Combine driver spilled a little bit. Before I dump the remainder of the hopper out, I mean, we can take a look at the sample. That's pretty darn clean if you ask me. When I got a chance to run the combine a couple days ago and some other high yielding corn, I did the same thing that I just did. I pushed the stick forward to really see how many bushels an hour we can force through this S780. Someone commented saying, well, that's cool, but what are you throwing out the back? And that's honestly a great question. You know, I'm not trying to be disingenuous here. I'll show you what's going on. I was purely just trying to see how big I could get that number. Just to verify with everyone, this is where I stopped, because I said I stopped next to that one. I stopped right here. We'll walk it through and look. There's one. There's two. There's a third one, fourth one. So I'm seeing about 4 right here in this square foot. Still over here, just trying to find a fair spot. Okay, here's one without much trash. Got 1, 2. Just 2 there. Here's some cobs. Look right here. 1, 2. A ground up kernel, so I don't know how you count that, 2.5 maybe. 3, 3.5. Here's some that definitely went out the back because it's sitting on top of all the residue. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 total right there. On average in that strip, we're running about 3 or 4 kernels per square foot, and those weren't accurately measured square feet. That was kind of just a guesstimate. 4 seeds per square foot put us just shy of 170,000 seeds per acre that I threw out the back or I lost through the head. Maybe 2 bushels loss. I mean, that's really not that bad. It adds up, don't get me wrong, but for what I was doing right there, I was asking a lot out of this combine, and it delivered. Now that I think about it, we don't even know what our check was. If we're running 6.5 miles an hour out here as opposed to 7.5 or 8, we could be throwing 2 bushels out the back anyways. So it really could have performed the same that fast versus slower. Obviously, you always want to minimize grain loss. At a certain point though, you're not going to be able to avoid it entirely. I'm actually kind of disappointed with how clean our sample is in the grain tank. A few cobs in there pays well. Might as well, right? Keep the stick down, no reason not to when the sample looks like that and you're not throwing much out the back. Thanks for having me check though. I do appreciate the feedback in the comments. If you ever have any questions, everyone, make sure you drop them down below. Marty needs to clean his dumping window. Can't see what's going on. My time here is done.
Can we give him a ride and leave your truck here, or do you want your truck down here?
I want it down there in the bean field, Andy. My truck.
That was fun while it lasted, and it took quite a bit longer than I thought it was going to for them to set up to that 48-foot grain bin. That's actually pretty hard work running the combine. There's a reason I'm a grain car driver. Back to the old ball and chain. Something's afoot. My seat has been moved back. Oh yes, we're at Marty distance. I can tell he was in here. 3/4 mile long throughs, coupled with decently yielding corn, 250, 260, 270, results in a pretty high average throughput in your combine. I mean, you're gonna have a lot of grain in your tank. Corn that's spilled on the front of your combine is cap corn. What do you call corn spilled on the back of your combine? Butt corn? I try not to pick favorites, but if I were to pick one, it'd be the farm we're on right now. What's not to love? Great soil, long rows, beautiful view, and right next to home. Okay, I definitely want to address what all of you are thinking about right now. And yes, the corn is supposed to be on there. It's the emergency overflow. What would you rather happen? The grain tank explode? As the grain cart operator who is very prideful about his work, I didn't have the heart to tell the boss that he spilled over on his combine like 5 different times. A couple times off the back, 1 time off the front, and a couple times off of either side, which is pretty impressive in itself. At one point we were chatting over the radio and Dad mentioned that in 2012, one of the worst droughts in recent memory, he picked 2 full rounds on this field without filling a hopper. This is really good farm ground. We're not even getting a full round right now in these 3/4 mile rows without the combine being stuffed full. Stuffed full so much that it's running out the sides. Maybe it's on me, I'm not gonna admit it if it is, but it's hard to keep up and that's a good thing. We're also traveling very fast this entire time. We are unloading on the go right now at 7 miles an hour. Don't believe me? Look for yourself. This 780 is an absolute beast. Just eats corn. I'm not even sure if it's broken a sweat. This poor 9460R has though. It's been working like a dog. Pulling that fully loaded grain cart at road speeds probably is not great for anything on this train. I believe the manual says don't go over 10 miles an hour loaded. I think that's just a suggestion. Lights are on. Lights on. We're getting pretty close to the end of the night out here. Elevator Dole stays open as late as we want it to, but there's no reason to work our employees that hard, myself included. I'm finally caught up enough that I have some time to take a leak. Whew. With the remainder of what's on the combine right now, this should put us at about 20,000 bushels in the last 6 hours. I know that's not 4,000 bushels an hour instant, but that's the instant, not the average. I'm pretty satisfied and surprised at how efficient we were this afternoon. That combine never stopped except for like 1 or 2 times, which was my fault. Dad's cleaning all the debris off his combine. He's gonna shut off here on the south end. I'm gonna go dump the grain cart and take her in because she's pretty thirsty. Last load of the night. Well, there's no reason to load it that heavy, and I tried anyways and ran some off the side. Way to make a mess, grain cart guy. This so the truck driver doesn't complain. The corn's running off the truck. Yeah, I know, I loaded it. You always lose a little bit. It's the cost of doing business. I'm gonna take that Half mile up the road, fuel her up, shut her off. Be our secret. No one will ever know.
I came in like a wrecking ball.
You know, people ought to have a much greater appreciation for dinosaurs. I mean, they basically provide all the energy to grow our food. Well, except for the sun, but the mechanical energy. Here comes Jeffrey. Thank you for your sacrifice, dinosaurs. Get rid of this key real quick. Oh, would you look at that? Someone made it back home from the John Deere dealership, doing volunteer work. With how well that 780 is running right now for us, I'm not sure that C8R corn head will ever be picked up. It's liable to still be brand new at the end of the year. One thing I've been wanting to do is get the yield data off of this 2630 so I can see how our trials went. Because it doesn't have the JD Link modem in here, I have to do it all manually with this little flash drive doohickey. You know you're having a good day when you put the USB drive in the right direction the first time. Export data, 21 corn data, begin transfer. Beep boop bop, downloading. Holy moly, that's gonna give me a migraine. Gotta turn that down. Oh, that's so much better. That hurt my brain. It's my data and I want it now. With the power trusted in me, I can now analyze our data on my John Deere and determine who is the penultimate seed corn company. But I'm actually looking at beans. I know that some of you may realize this, but a lot of you don't know. These videos run pretty far behind, especially when you have consecutive days of work. In this harvest, we've probably worked the last 16 or 17 days in a row with maybe one day off. With my every other day upload schedule, I get pretty far behind. This yield data I'm pulling right now is to put on my video the second one after the S780 breaks down, when we finish that field with the different trials. Just to give you guys an idea of how this all goes. That's gonna be it for me. I think that's more than enough farming for one video. Don't forget to follow the link down in the bio, go over to Farm Focus and check out the channel's merchandise. I would appreciate your support greatly. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and comment down below if you have any questions. You know I love to talk about farming. Have a great day everyone. Peace!